Welcome back to the latest Pinal's People. We're joining you once again from the Black Box Foundation Theater, and our guests today are Emmy Ricosi and Holly Nash. Both are the daughters of Phil Ricosi. Emmy is the artistic director with Black Box Theater, and Holly is the executive director of Cascagrand Main Street. Emmy, Holly, thank you guys so much for joining us.
Thank you.
So to start off with, we ask all of our guests who come on this show, could you give a little bit of insight into your background for our audience members who might not be familiar with you?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Casa Grande. I went to Casa Grande Union High School. Then I went to U of A, got my degree in political science, and came back to town to work. I worked for the city for a couple of years, got my feet into some government, learned it wasn't for me, and then went to like a policy side of it where I really wanted to make an impact. And that's where I ended up in the nonprofit world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And Emmy, could you share a little bit about your background?
Yeah, I was also born and raised in Casa Grande. We're both, I think, fourth generation Casa Grande. And I was homeschooled, and I spent most of my childhood traveling with my dad for work and doing things around Casa Grande. I've been with the Black Box Foundation since I was 9. So back in 2012 was whenever they first became a theater, and it is whenever I started doing improv with them, and I've done shows with them pretty much my whole life. During COVID, they shut down for about a year and a half, and I didn't do theater with them then. And then I came back and applied to be an assistant director for a show, and they asked if I would direct a show, and I had never done that before, but I've never wanted to say no to something. So I said yes, and the rest is pretty much history. I've been with the theater ever since, and I absolutely love it. But other than that, I spent most of my life just hanging out with my family and traveling and learning new things. And
Yeah, that's incredible. Thank you guys so much for answering those questions. And then, so, of course, you had just mentioned, and I believe when we spoke to your father, he had also mentioned that you've been a part of Black Box since you were young. So when the opportunity for artistic director came up, what sort of made you want to take that?
So what happened was I was directing all of our youth productions here at Black Box. At the time, that was only about one a year. And then the second year I did one, they were like, oh, we love your directing so much. Do you want to do another show? And I was like, yeah, I'd love to do a teen show. And then after that, they're like, hey, do you want to do a youth show in the same year, which was 3 in 1 year? And I was like, absolutely. And I spent every waking hour I could here. So I worked at the Cookie Jar downtown, and I would work 40 hours a week. And then as soon as I was done at Cookie Jar, I would come over here and I would clean something in the back or organize paperwork, and I would contact people, and I just got the community really involved, and I spent a lot of volunteer hours because at the time I wasn't being paid to be here besides, you get a little bit to be a director. And I was putting all of my extra time into my shows, and they saw my hard work, and they actually didn't have an artistic director at the time, and they offered it to me because I basically was the only one coming in and willing to do the work. So they asked if I wanted to basically get paid to do what I was already doing, and I was like, that sounds good to me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
That's incredible. And Holly, can you share a little bit about, for you, what's been the passion behind getting involved with CG Main Street?
So I grew up down here, or around here. I grew up down here, put lights on the trees when the trees were first done with the streetscape back in like 2012 or 2011. So I always kind of, grew up in the area, but I had been looking to, like I said, get out of like the government side and go more towards, I liked making the impact, but I wanted to feel like I was making an impact. My dad actually told me about the opening and told me to apply. I figured, why not? So they offered me the job, and for me, it's been mostly that I can make an impact doing what I like and make like a real change. With it being small businesses downtown and everything and like events, it's one small thing makes a really big impact. So, one event puts people in the cookie jar, I'm friends with Marianne, so I actually get to have that like bond with people who I get to help. It also allows me to do stuff with policy and to do stuff with budgets, which it's what I like to do. So it's kind of it was a really good, perfect fit.
Mm-hmm.
And then over the years, I've kind of grown the organization to make it more visible, so I've also been able to, grow myself with the organization, which personal growth is always the goal, I think.
Yeah. And could you ladies share what's one project that you're working on currently that you're most excited for?
Oh, I'm gonna do-
I mean,
okay, yes, you went first last time. I would say right now, one project I'm really passionate about is going forward. We are trying to do more of these family movie nights, and that's something that I've really been trying to get people in here more frequently and to experience live theater. And a good way to do that is a stepping stone of, hey, come enjoy a musical that's on film, because a lot of people are a lot less timid to come to a film. And so I've been really passionate about trying to spread and get people to come see some musicals here on through a projector. And also just community events in general. I was really passionate. Recently we had our second year of summer camp for the community, and we were able to give away 8 scholarships for that. And so working forward for next year, I'm really excited to see about having even more scholarships for the community and for spreading awareness of, making a safe space for kids and somewhere they can feel comfortable and learn about art and theater and life skills.
Yeah, that's a really beautiful mission. What about for you, Holly?
mine's a lot less crafty. No, I don't know that I have anything now like to work on. My big project was opening the Space 108 retail incubator. We started that process about a year ago. Not necessarily in that space, but with all the vacant buildings downtown, and we need retail. That's something that basically everyone agrees on, is we need more retail downtown. So we created a business plan to where we could go into any vacant building and put retail in there, but in a sustainable way. Retail downtowns don't really survive when it's just like one person or one aspect, unless it's downtown Tempe. You see a lot of these co-ops pop up, so that was something that we worked on to try and figure out, get retail down here, meet our economic vitality aspect while also, helping increase the downtown appeal. So we did open in Space 108, which is 108 West 2nd Street. We are working, I think we have 4 vendors in there right now. The goal is to have up to like 8 or 9, but the goal is not to keep it a co-op with just those same people, but it's to help those businesses grow to where they can eventually go out and get another location to continue to get the retail out. So being able to basically open a retail store that's designed to do a lot more than that.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, that makes sense, and that's actually a really cool thing. And so, could you share a little bit, both of you actually, could you share a little bit about what inspires you most about the work you do?
Okay. So basically the reason I took the job, like I said, was I like to make an impact. I feel like I'm very good at what I do. I have the background for policy and grant writing and whatnot. So being able to actually use that in a way that makes an impact that I can see, it's really hard when you're working in government and you don't meet the people that you're helping. But whenever you're in a nonprofit, it's a small one, you meet the people that you're helping. So just being able to actually see that, even with events, like the Halloween stroll is a big example of it. First year we had 500 people. This is going to be our 6th year. Last year, at our 5th year, we had 7,000 people. And so that's 7,000 people downtown. No, they're not spending money that day, but that's 7,000 people now that are exposed to it. And bringing money in, to the bookstore, to Cream of the Crop, the people that we're all friends with. So being able to actually help their livelihood in a real meaningful way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's wonderful. And what about you, Emmy?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Oh, yeah, sure. What inspires you most about the work you do?
Oh, okay. So the whole reason that I've stayed with Black Box for as long as I did and still continue to be super passionate about it is all for the same reason, and it's for the community and mostly for the youth of Casa Grande, because pretty much all there was to do when I was a kid in Casa Grande was theater, and we had a skate park and stuff like that, but the only thing really going on for people outside of school was this theater, and it was a huge hub for me to find friends, and it was a great place for me to feel really comfortable and feel creative and to spark all kinds of wonderful things that I've seen other people that I did theater with in this theater grow to be on, in New York right now, or to be, pursuing their theater dreams or their directing dreams. And I wanted to provide the same space for kids. And so when I saw that, during COVID, when everything was kind of falling apart, and I was like, not my theater. You can take the school ones out, but you're not taking my theater. And I think it just inspires me to keep giving the kids a place where they can, have that artistic outlet, and they can have that inspiration, and they can make friends and have a community here as well, and a place where parents feel comfortable having their kids, and just hoping to inspire more people to go on and do great things as well. Mm-hmm. I think it's just what keeps me going, and that it means so much to so many people.
Yeah, and it's interesting actually that you bring up youth, because you both are actually fairly young yourselves. And I would love if you could share, if you had a message for other local youth about, just the importance about getting involved in your community and what it means for you, what would you say?
So I work with the Casa Grande Youth Commission, so this is something that we deal with a lot. Basically, go experience the world, but come back. Everyone's, issues with Casa Grande when they're younger is that there's nothing to do, or there's bigger and better, but I mean, they didn't just get that way overnight. So, come back, go learn your skills, go have your fun, but come back and help us get better. And it's not necessarily, get better by go build this mall or something, but, come help us figure out what we're missing. Come help us, find a community theater, better the organizations that are there. And also just that, your skills, they can be applied in a lot of different places. I never thought I was going to run a nonprofit. Absolutely not. I thought I'd be president, but not run a nonprofit. But it worked with my skills, and, it brings me, a lot of happiness. So basically, don't just hate on our city. It's really not that bad.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I feel like I have to agree with that message. Is so many people, they yearn to leave Casa Grande, and there's so many people that are moving here for the same reason that people want to leave, which is it's simple, and there's not all this hustle and bustle and commotion. And if that's what if you want to live in New York City,
more than there was.
Yeah, but we've boomed in the last 5 years, and there's been so much growth that I would really tell young people pretty much the same thing. That's hey, just because it's small doesn't mean it's not, the importance is small. And I think that you have a lot better chance of building a community and long-term relationships and connections if you're staying in, you can, if you're in a place where you can, and there's not all of this constant motion. But I also say, just to tell people my biggest thing that I tell every kid that walks into the store, and I tell them, is to follow their dreams and not be afraid of what anybody else says. And it's so cliche, I know, I'm corny. But my dad, my whole life, told me not to listen to anybody and never think anything was too big. If I wanted to be a movie star, go be a movie star. If I wanted to run a theater, go run a theater. If I wanted to be somebody, go be that person. And he would help me find any of the steps I needed to get there. And I think I try and encourage kids the same thing. If so many people will tell you it's unrealistic, or you can't do that, or this and that, and I'll say the same thing my dad says. He wouldn't be a wildlife comedian if he had listened to anybody tell him that. He wouldn't be a self-titled wildlife comedian.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you listen to him say oh, that's not going to work out, Phil, that you're crazy, and people look at me and be go live your life, you're young, go experience new things, find what you really want to do. And it's well, here I am 5 years later, and my friends are all just now graduating college, and instead of, which is good for them if they're following what they want to do. But I think so many times you think that there's a right way or a wrong way to do things, and just I'm about to quote Nike, just do it. Just get out there and do it, and try. At least take the steps getting there, because you'll be happier that you took the steps getting there in 2 years, 3 years, a month than if you hadn't. And it's never too late to start. If you want to start something, just take one step in the right direction. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really important, is to just start.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And Holly, actually, I want to circle back to you.
So touching.
Holly, I do want to circle back to you, because you had mentioned this idea of coming back to your community. And I wanted to ask you, do you feel like that was sort of your story? The idea of you mentioned you went to U of A, and then obviously you've done some things locally here. Do you feel like that was your story a little bit?
Yes. So like I said, I went to U of A. I did move back and continue to go, but I also worked at Big House during it, so very local, area, learning my community. And then I did work some congressional campaigns, and I worked some propositions. So I did get my foot into those, it was a national congressional campaign, and then a statewide initiative. So I did get my foot into those bigger ones. They were okay. But like I said, it just wasn't my thing. Like, it wasn't what I thought it would be. But I did learn that I liked an aspect of it. So then it was, I worked for the city to learn the city side. I already done national and state, like wanted to learn city. So I did come back and work for the city. And yeah, it was like a lot of let me learn it. And then once I learned it, I was like, you know what? That's how you can make a difference. I did want to continue that path, whether it be, like maybe city management or something. But like I said, like I kind of learned that just wasn't for me. But something around here was. Like I really had that pull to do something with my community, and I was the next generation. So like everyone's going to be retiring and leaving. So who's going to be there to take it if we don't do it? It's going to be people from out of town, out of state with their ideas rather than those of us who've lived here. Which is something we battle with Casa Grande Main Street, honestly, is like our job is to preserve the history. That doesn't mean we can't change. However, like if it's not me doing it, a local, then it's going to be somebody not from here and who's going to know the area better than somebody who's been here their entire life, who knows somebody in every part of the city. So yeah, that was a really big draw.
Yeah, that's incredible. I really appreciate that you brought that up, actually, because so one of the other questions I was going to ask the both of you is, what do you wish more people knew about your organizations? And Holly, I would love if we could start with you.
Yeah, so Casa Grande Main Street is a 501c3, which means we are a charity, we're a nonprofit, we're the people you donate to, and then you get to write off your taxes. So we exist for the betterment of the entire community. Now we focus downtown. We are a nationally recognized Main Street. So with all like the people moving in, something that we get hit with a lot is, like let's become Gilbert, let's become Chandler. We cannot. We are a nationally recognized Main Street. We take the Main Street approach, which means you keep what you have and you build upon it. So you would see us on the same playing field as like Prescott or Bisbee. Even Flagstaff takes more of that approach. They didn't just come in and like complete modernization. We are not a part of the city. We are a city partner. So we do get some funding through the city, and we work very closely with the city to meet the downtown mission that, we have, community has, city has. Like we all work very closely together. We're not the Chamber of Commerce. We do not exist for advertisement. We work with them, but our goal is revitalization, historic preservation, and economic vitality. So we do events, again, not an event organization, but we do them because we want to bring people down here. It's part of the economic vitality. So that's where, street fair. Nothing brings more people to this city than the street fair. We have 40,000 people over 2 days. Again, are they spending all of the money? Not necessarily. However, your hotels see skyrockets in their room occupancy during January. You have more income tax because we're bringing all that income. They're not just spending it here, they're going to go out to eat afterwards, or the people who are staying 3 nights have to eat somewhere. So events are a way for us to bring the economic aspect. But at the end of the day, we're here to preserve the old town historic feel, and keeping that while we revitalize it. So like it's a very fun line we get to walk.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, before we jump into you, I do have a follow-up question for you about that, because it's obvious that you're very passionate about revitalization. Could you share a little bit about why you think, especially for communities like Casa Grande, why you think it's so important?
So I would argue that preserving is just as important as revitalizing. So like Emmy said, we have so many people who move here because they want that small town feel. And as somebody who's lived here forever, I love that small town feel. And there is something to it. People visit downtowns right now, like there's a big boom for them because they want that. They want that like local charm feel. They want to feel like they're not going to the mall where they can buy the same thing everywhere. Like they want that mom and pop, one-on-one, you walk in, the owner's going to greet you feel. So keeping that while also revitalizing is a very difficult thing, because you want to revitalize with the right people. We don't want big box stores coming in. If they do, we want to make sure that they are not tearing a building down. So the corner of 3rd Street, the terminal, like that's a perfect example. Poor Therapy is going in, and they've been communicating with me for the past year trying to get involved in events. So like they're trying to interject themselves into the community, learn the community, so that when they open, they're not just this outcast. You know, people have already been expecting them. They know who they are, and they've been a part of events. So like it's not this outsider coming in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know if that answered your
It
question.
does actually. I like that. So Emmy, could you also share what for you wish more people knew about your organization?
Yes. So I wish that people understood how much this is a volunteer theater. Nobody here is paid full time. Nobody here is really even paid to spend their time here to put on shows for the community, to put on events for the community, people that help make a show, to the people that are acting in shows, to the people that are behind the scenes. We have a whole board of volunteer people that do a whole lot of work and spend a whole lot of time doing this. And I think one of the most frequently asked questions I get is like, oh, well, how do you guys stay running? And it's purely on volunteer power. And I think that needs to be appreciated a lot more. And I wish a lot more people realized how much effort is going into keeping a place like this running. I also want people to really know that, you know, we're here for the community. We're also a 501c3, just like Main Street is, just different kind of organization. And our main goal is just to, you know, better Casa Grande and the community of Casa Grande. So anything we can do to bring arts back into Casa Grande, whether it's cooperating or collaborating with local, like the art studio or the museum, or local people writing shows, things like that. We're always super trying to get out there and incorporate other people back into the theater to, you know, just re-inspire everything.
Can I add something for yours? Just as like an outsider.
Yeah, you definitely should.
So like the shows are good quality. So I feel like a lot of people hear like local theater and they're like, oh, somebody in the garage. Like no, like they're actually really good quality shows. Like I'm not a theater person. Obviously, my dad and my sister are, and I went the opposite direction. But like they're good quality, especially for like when you think Casa Grande, you know, like they put a lot of time and effort into it. Like it's not some.
Yeah, I want to elaborate on that a little bit because I definitely agree. A lot of people hear community theater and they think of like, oh, this, you know, like a high school play or a middle school play. Even though we do have high schoolers and middle schoolers, our job is to educate them on acting and singing and dancing. And we have professionals that come in, and although they're volunteer, they are professionals that teach these kids and community members these things. And we're teaching theater from the ages of 6 all the way up until, I think the oldest person we've had in the show was 87. Mm-hmm. So any age you can still learn. But that a lot of people expect, you know, actually that is the thing people say the most, is when they're leaving a show and they come up to me or a different director and they're like, hey, this is incredible. My expectations were low, and this is amazing. Like, because there's they think community theater and they just think some people that came together to do something, but we're putting in, for every show, we make it a minimum of 35 hours rehearsal time. Usually it's closer to 100. So wow. They're putting in a whole lot of time, and I do agree that the quality is a lot more than people anticipate it to be. So thank you for bringing that up.
That's beautiful. Thank you guys so much for sharing. So I do have one last question for you, and it's a question we've made our mission to pretty much ask every guest who ever comes on the show. And I'm interested to see what the two of you are going to say. But when you think many, 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 many years down the line, when people are reflecting on your story and the work you've done, whether that be with Casa Grande Main Street or with Black Box, what do you hope they take away from your legacy?
What do I hope they do, or what are they actually going to?
It's up to you.
Wow. Let me think on that.
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah.
Okay. That's a first. I hope many, many years down the line that people look at this and they take what I said earlier and they realize that they could also do whatever they want. Because this is, like in life, you can be whoever you want to be, and that they can look at my story and go, wow, you have this 22-year-old girl who doesn't have a degree in any kind of theater, never went to school for theatricals or business or anything like that, just spent all of my free time learning something, and putting my heart and soul into something and trying to always be better at it. And I hope that somebody in any point in time, but especially down the line, that's what they take away from it, is just that you can do it as long as you do it. And you just go out and, like I said, take that first step. Just try something. And if it doesn't work out, that's okay. Try something else. Don't be afraid of failing, because you'll never try if you're afraid of failing, because that's how life works. I hope that's what they take away from this whole mission, and that it's always more important. Sometimes, not always, let me rephrase this. It sometimes is more important to put yourself aside and do things for other people as well, because I think it is much more rewarding in life if you are bettering an entire community that also benefits you than just yourself.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
All right, so, well, because my job's somewhat political, so I deal with a lot of policies. I deal with a lot of different managing expectations of people. So I deal with managing the city and our relationships with them and how we work with them, along with county. I've created a new relationship with county. I have a relationship with other cities, and then you have your community relationship, and then you have your downtown business relationship. So there's a lot of times, I found that when I took my job, there had been a mindset of we do this because we've always done it, and this is how we're going to do it. Granted, they hired I think I was 22 as well. So they hired a 22-year-old, to come do this job, and it was COVID. So it was one of those well, we can't do it that way because we can't. So I spent a lot of time figuring out new ways, and I was met with a lot of resistance. So I hope that people understand, okay, he's probably gonna get mad at me. So Kevin Lewis was my director when I worked for the city, and something he said that stuck with me was never stop questioning authority. And to this day, I think it bites him because I do question authority, and I question it with the city a lot, but I don't get as much pushback. But I do question not just authority, but the why. So if somebody tells me no to a project, I really want to know why. Chances are I'm probably going to do that project anyway, but I'm going to try and meet your expectations with it too. So I think many years down the line, people will, remember me as probably somewhat of a pain, but that I did a lot, and that I did do a lot of new things, and that I don't want to say modernize it, but I did bring a younger atmosphere to it. So, now we have the Halloween stroll, we have the Terminus days. We're not just doing the same sign preservations and building preservations, now we're growing with it. So I hope that people think of me as I actually did something worthwhile, and I did it with a lot of resistance, and I think I want that known. Main Street is I finally have an employee, but it was a one-person organization for a long time. So I took my job through COVID. It was, I probably worked 50, 60 hours a week minimum. Street fair doesn't count as working because you don't sleep, so it's just life. But it was out of love, we didn't have an employee. I have an employee now, and I love her to death, and she's so helpful. But with all the stuff we do, even 2 people is not enough. Street fair takes, I think I calculated 180 hours of admin work.
Wow.
And that's not any volunteer work. That's just what we put into it, and that's just one event. So then on top of that, you have Halloween stroll, Celebra, Terminal Day or Terminus days. So that's just 4 events, Then we have the neon sign park. We have all the preservation projects to maintain. I installed the new Don Marcus sign, another big fiasco. Opened a store, run the day-to-days, do the grants. So yeah, it was a passion. Yeah. So I hope they remember me as I was passionate, not just argumentative.
Yeah. Well, that says a lot about your character and your passion for what you do, and I really appreciate it. I appreciate you both, and thank you so much for being on the show.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.